Hello. Hello. Do you hear me? Hello. It's good? Okay, perfect. Hello, everyone. My name is Yann Le Goff, and this is my first talk here at ESUG. So thank you all for coming. And I will speak about Pyramid. Pyramid is a graphical user interface editor for Pharo. So a graphical user interface editor is a special tool that can allow to edit the different property of a graphical user interface. Pyramid is used with block is used to edit user interface made in a block or Toplo. There was a really good talk yesterday about block and Toplo, if you want to know more about them. So in this talk, I will try to explain why having a graphical user interface editor is nice. What Pyramid can do and cannot do, and what are the future plans for Pyramid. So to do this, I will go through a little demonstration. So I did go on the internet and I found the list of all the countries of the world, and I found a picture of each flag, and I created a small game with 3 panels. You have one panel to start the game, then you have one panel for questions, so you have the flags that appear and 4 possible answers, and a final panel with your score. So it looked like something like this, but what I already done for this game is I created the model that contains the flag and the country name. I create a model for the different question and a model for a game to keep the score. I also created a controller to switch between the different views and to update the score and to update the different views. And I have the views to do. So I suggest that we do it together. So I will not write the code. I will directly use a Pyramid to create the different view. So let's begin with the start view. Oops, sorry. Tac. So Pyramid looks like something like this. So here I will add a new element, and we can see it here. So I will change its ID, and when I press enter, its ID has changed. I can inspect this element, and we see that its ID has changed. So the body will contain all the different elements. We want it to be the full size of the application. So we want its horizontal constraint and vertical constraint to match the parent shape element. Then I want to add a button to my body to start the game. So I click here, I click add a child, and here I have only 2 choices, either to add a block, either to add a simple block element or a text. So I cannot add a button. But because we are in Smalltalk, we have access to some strong tool, like for example, a playground. So here I have a small playground, and if I write self here and inspect it, I have my body element. So this way, I can add my button, simply writing the code. So here I evaluate the code, and the small button has appeared on the top left. Oops. Okay, now I will use the same playground to change the button label. Yeah. Tac. And I evaluate the code here, do it, and now my button has the correct label. So if I want to center the button, I can use a block layout. So to do that, we use a frame layout. And now I can go back on my button. Tick. And in my layout, I have new special constraint for my frame. So here, if I go back, my body has a basic layout. And my button doesn't have the frame constraint, but if my body is a frame layout, my button has the frame constraint. So here I will center the button. So now the button is in the center of the application. And now I just have to add the title. I will just rename my button. And now I just had to add the title of my game. So first I will create a small container that will contain the title. And inside this container, I will add a text element. Tac. Oops. I add a text element here that corresponds to my title. And the text element has some property dedicated to the text. For example, the text size, the text value, and the text size. So I can make a big size text. And I can change its title. I will just set the containers to be to match the parent in horizontal size, so we will see the text in full size. Tac, tac. And I will change the text. Okay, and now if I want to center the text, I can do it like I did with the button. So my container is a frame layout, and I can center it with the frame constraint. Okay. So inside the editor, there is a little green arrow I can press, and I can interact with the different interactable element. And if I stop the interactive mode, I go back in edit mode, and now if I press, I should select the button. Okay. Now we have created a view, but we need to serialize it, to save it, and to keep our design we have just created. So for this, we have a serializer tool. So we need to give it a package. A class name. And a method name. And now I can save it. And if we go on the class I just mentioned on the class size, I now have a method named piston. So the method is the serialization I use created a stone object. And since it was created with pyramid, so I link the two and it's create a piston. And I've added a little extension to the browser, so we can have a nice preview of our serialized object. So I can open it. and I can edit it quickly. For example, I can change here the background. That is not really nice. I can pick a more blue color, for example. I can save. And now my piston has been edited. If I open it again, it is blue. So because it's a simple method, I can copy-paste it to the other view to create them quickly. I will just here, we will not have a title, we will have a score. So it will look something like this. I change the text, and I also need to change the ID to name it score. I save it. And now for the question view, I will do the same. I copy-paste the method of the start view, and I can edit it inside the question view. So we don't need the button anymore. We can remove elements. We don't need the title. We can remove it. And now we need to add a special container that will contain the 4 buttons that are our different possible answers. So I add a child that corresponds to this. I will use the playground to add the different buttons. I try to go as fast as possible, sorry. So here I add 4 buttons. And now my 4 buttons here are present inside my container. So I will just put them in line, like this. And I want to add text. And in a pyramid, you can select multiple elements at the same time and edit them together. So now if I inspect self, so here I have selected the 4 buttons, I inspect it, and I have in fact a collection that contains the 4 selected buttons. And so I can edit them at the same time using the collection API. And here I have edited them. So they are not displayed because we need to change first the different constraints of our buttons container. So I will make my button container fit their contents, and I will force a with like this. And now I can set the container in the middle and in the bottom of the text. And now it is in the bottom of my interface. Okay, now I will. Oops, sorry. Okay, so now if we go back to my presentation. So what we just saw is that if we try to write the same interface without an editor, I would have to write it with code, and it would have take time because writing code can be long and tedious, and we would need to have executed it in a playground to be able to to visualize it. And also, because we don't always master the API of our library, sometimes we can introduce bugs and we will spend more time in the debugger than designing. So with a graphical user interface, you always saw what you are doing, and at the same time you are modifying the view, you are visualizing what you do. And this way you can be faster, you can quickly test different options, and if you are a beginner developer that doesn't know the syntax, you can quickly try a different thing without knowing the syntax, because all the possibilities are displayed inside the properties view. And also in Pharo we have a playground, and with the playground we can have access to all the possibilities that Pharo offers to edit the user interface, and not only the one. Oops. And not only the ones that are implemented by the editor. Okay, so Pyramid can help you to create a skeleton for your application, can help you to quickly test IDs, and you can also use Pyramid when you have a problem to understand and debug a user interface. Currently, there are some limitations. So, for example, you cannot in a block you have some dynamics layout. So for example, the infinite layout or the tabulation or the menu, every UI that is created by some sort of code is not easy to display inside a user interface editor. So we didn't work on it. And we also didn't work on the event handlers. So we cannot manage the behavioral aspect of the user interface. So here is the pros and cons of coding versus using an editor. So when you are coding, you are learning the API, and it's important when you are a developer if you want to master what you are doing. You also have an higher precision about the possibilities you can do, but you are way slower. When you are using an editor like Pyramid, you are faster, you have direct feedback, and you don't need any previous knowledge of the API before starting to develop user interface. But the drawbacks are that you will not be learning the API as much as if you were coding, and you are also limited by the tools, because if the tool is not up to date, you will not be able to have the latest functionalities. And also you have to learn to use the tool. So in the future we plan to have a better serialization system. So currently there is some things that are not totally working with it. We also plan to have all the functionality of block implemented and integrated to our editor, and all the functionality of Toplo implemented and integrated to our editor. Okay, thank you very much. I don't know if you have any question.
So when you were adding the buttons and labeling them, you were using code, but why wouldn't you want to automate that with drag and drop or something?
Yeah, it would be in the future, like this view to add elements. We want to be like a library where you will have all the block elements that you can add, but also all the Toplo elements that you could add. And in the future, if, for example, spec is made with a block, spec work with block, we could also have the spec elements that we could add to our user interface.
So it's future development.
Yes.
Okay.
I think the coexistence of having the editor as well as a defined scripting interface is not so bad. So for example, I can start by clicking a bit and then looking what is the generate code, how does it look like, and then come up with the idea to go deeper into the classes that are affected. And last not least, I prefer also a way to well-defined scripting or even programming the interface, because there comes always the point where you have to compute a kind of GUI, and if that is too clumsy, that is not funny, because nobody wants to click dynamically some stuff to get it working. So it's fine, the both ways to be present, and I think it's a good start.
So I've seen you, two questions. I've seen you included a full undo framework.
Yeah.
So it's, yeah.
For example, here I can edit the text. Yeah. So I add anything to it. Here it's modified, and I can undo it like this.
So also it exposes the properties of basically block elements, if I understand?
Yeah, everything that is inside the middle view are block elements. Yeah. And there is also functionality I didn't show. So if I have, for example, here, what? Okay, it's not working anymore. Tac. So I will start my little game. So here I have my view of the game, and I have a special shortcut. So here I press a key on my keyboard, and here it says that the design is open in pyramid. And for example, I can modify the background here. So I can change, for example, I don't want a gradient, I want a full color, full red. So I edit it on pyramid, I close, and now my background is red. So you have a live modification of your element.
So you've got a full versioned IDE in the IDE basically for UI development.
This is a IDE, yes.
Okay, and you could exploit it. Yeah, well, it's interesting.
Soyons gourmands. I have a question, Jan. That's super cool. Now what I was thinking is that, do you think that we could have a different serializer, because you serialize in Stone, and I would like to see, do you think that we could serialize as code?
After tonight there is a small project presentation, and I don't want to spoil everything, but maybe it could be presented, I don't know.
I like that. Okay.
The answer is no.
The last one. That's interesting. Yeah.
Thank you very much. A very good job. This kind of job I am expecting for years, since I lived Visualworks. So very good jobs. And my question is it open source?
Yeah, everything is available on GitHub. So you go on OpenSmoke /pyramid. I can give you everything. I will edit the resource on my slide, and I can send you my slide if you want.
Okay, thanks a lot.